everybody, it's T Falcon Napier. Welcome to the Oracle of the Self. Today is coaching training session number 45. If you guys can believe it, you have gone through 45 hours now of training in all things tension management. And recently we've been focusing on the nature of change. And if you were a regular audience, I may very well have ended the presentation on the nature of change when we went through this little matrix last time around. So this is the summary matrix that simply explores one part of the whole puzzle. And that is that whenever someone is considering making a change in whatever area of their life they happen to be looking at, there are three variables that come into play, probably a lot more, but three major variables that come into play. Those variables are logic, feasibility, and tension. If you want me to make a change, I have to believe that making that change is logical. And by logical, I mean that it's going to give me what I want. And what I want is one word. So who remembers from Nature of Change, what is the one thing everybody wants as a result of making a change?
Control.
They want control. If it's not going to give me control or help me maintain the control I already have, well, then it's not logical. And of course, if it's going to cost me control and, not represent some net gain, because, every time you make a change, there's kind of an exchange of control happening. We said before, if you want the control that a college education is going to give you, you have to be willing to sacrifice control over resources, time, things like that. So there's an exchange that has to happen sometimes. But bottom line is, if the logic doesn't show that there's going to be some benefit, some net gain of control somewhere, then what's the likelihood that you're going to do it?
Not very high.
Greatly reduced. And then the second variable is feasibility. All change requires the availability of certain resources. Different changes might require different resources, but you need these resources. So whether it's time, money, physical space, I don't know, whatever the resource is, if you don't have those resources, what happens to the likelihood of you following through and making the change?
Diminishes.
It's going to get complicated. There's issues that need to be addressed. And then the third one is that you have to have enough tension to pay attention to what's going on. And now we know that there's a level of tension that equals maximum productivity. There's a level of tension at which someone will take immediate definitive action. Now, keep in mind, at this point in your training, if you were a regular audience, you wouldn't even know that there were 5 levels of tension or what they were called. That hasn't even been mentioned yet. All you know is that I taught you one level of tension, and that level of tension is the level at which someone takes immediate definitive action. What's that level called?
Threshold of activation.
The threshold of activation. And so if you're not at the threshold of activation, what happens to the likelihood of you following through and doing what needs to be done?
Not likely.
Not very likely. So these are the three variables: logic, feasibility, and tension. And we worked our way through all the different scenarios that are possible as you look at different combinations here. And what you basically walk away with is that while logic and feasibility are involved and should be involved if you want to make the best quality decisions for yourself, they don't run the show. What runs the show is tension. Every time the level of tension is at the right level, is at the threshold of activation, the person will follow through and do what needs to be done. Regardless of logic, regardless of feasibility, they will still have a likelihood of going forward with whatever it is. And last time around, I said, this fourth line item, no, it's not logical. No, it's not feasible, but you're still at your threshold. This is the world of impulse buying. So how often have you come home from the mall and said, I don't know why I bought it. I never should have spent the money, but don't you love it? So our houses are filled with things that probably came as the result of some impulsive sort of buying decision. And anyone who goes to see a Broadway play or whatever, you know how in the old days they would give you a program, and now they want like $10 for the show's program. I get it. If you're a collector of those sorts of things, well, then, have at it. But if you're just someone who's coming to see the show, do you really want to spend $10 on a booklet? That's
quite a disservice to the people, the cast. Because that's
Well,
often the only way you get introduced to them. And
that's very much the case.
It's a shame.
That's very much the case, which makes you wonder, why are they making me pay for it? Well, obviously, because at some point along the line, they knew that they could raise my level of tension and I would overcome my hesitations about logic and the hesitations about feasibility, and I'd go ahead and buy the thing.
Are they still including ads?
Oh, of
Because
course.
they always told ads.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that program is filled with sold advertising space. So they're making a profit off of it in multiple ways. But again, to show other examples of it, I'm going to imagine most, if not all, the guys on the call have been to Hawaii or somewhere tropical. And all I can tell you is that we bought the shirt. So the shirt makes great sense when you're in Hawaii or whatever tropical island you happen to be on. But when you get it home, you kind of go like, did this make sense for me to buy this? Should I really have spent the money? But, you know, in that moment, the level of tension was sufficiently high for you to do whatever needs to be done. Now, I can give you infinite numbers of examples of that scenario. I just want to make sure we lock that one in and then look at the last one. When things are totally logical and things are totally feasible, if the level of tension is not sufficiently high enough, what do you predict is going to happen?
That much.
It's not going to go on. These are the two that I want to talk about in today's program, because this is where we get into the ethics of change management. So there are times when we're the ones that are running the change that is affecting other people. And when we're the ones who are running the change that's affecting others, I think it's important for us to stop for a moment and really consider the ethical aspects of what's being done. Similarly, in our role as a consumer, as just a human living on this planet, we are constantly subjected to the attempts that others are making to get us to make some sort of a change.
Mhm.
And if we're not careful, we're going to end up making that change, even though there was nothing logical about it and it wasn't really feasible to do. And so, and then the third part of this is going to be the way that we try to overcome line item 4 is by doing line item 5. That seems to be the strategy that people are employing, right? So if I've got someone who is impulsively deciding to jump along some belief bandwagon, you know, they're all geeked, enthusiastic, like this whole recall thing happening here in Sun City West kind of thing. If I could suck people into all that sort of thing, well, then maybe, just maybe, I'll have sufficient people with sufficient tension that they'll do what I'm telling them to do, even though it's not logical and it really is costing money that doesn't need to be spent. So is it feasible? Yes, the resources are there, but is that a good use of the resources? Obviously, no. And so feasibility has that aspect to it as well. Is it a good use of whatever those resources happen to be? And then we go, well, how do you combat this? How do you combat someone who has had their level of tension hijacked? Well, you think it's by putting the emphasis on the logic and the feasibility and getting them to see all the evidence and present it all in front of them. Well, what do we know is the likely outcome of trying to convince this person through logic and feasibility that this jumping on the bandwagon was a mistake?
0.
There it is. It's not going to happen. The only way for you to fight fire is with
Fire.
fire. That's what it is. That's how you create a barrier to it. I mean, yeah, ultimately someone's going to need to put the fire out. But if we've got a battle going on and someone's directing fire our way, we need to fire back. And now we get into the whole world of warfare, but you get the idea. I have to manage tension. But if I'm trying to get people to do whatever I want them to do just by continuing to focus on the logical case and the feasibility aspects of it, that guarantees nothing. Nothing. What it does do, it frustrates the hell out of us, right? Because we're like, how come they can't see what's going on? How come they don't understand blah, blah, blah? Because
Right.
that's not what's driving the show.
Mhm.
Driving the show is this level of tension. You guys with me on this? Yeah. Have I described something?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's take a deeper dive into the ethics that are involved, and then we're going to make it very real world for you guys. And I have a couple of documents I want to share with you guys today. And so after all this nature of change things is over, we get to the only rule that attention management has, and that is pay attention. If you're not paying attention, you are ignoring the critical factor that's ultimately going to dictate who is going to do what and when they're going to do it. Inside of your own life, since this is the oracle of the self, you got to pay better attention to your own level of tension. You've got to become far more sensitive to when your level of tension is going up, you feeling it and recognizing it and managing it to whatever better outcome and kind of have. You got to pay, or if you notice that you're not doing something that on the one hand, logically, you know you should do, and you got what you need to do it, you got to say, I don't have enough tension here to bother you. What can I do to raise my own level of productive tension to get something done? Or maybe the truth is that I don't want to do it. I'm never going to do it. So can't I just get it off of my shoulders? You know, did I put it there or are other people putting it there? And so I have to pay attention to tension first and at all costs. If you're not paying attention, if this was a sales group, I'd be saying to you, if you're not paying attention, you are losing business. And the business that you could have is taking you a lot longer to get than it needed to. Well, you apply this to your own life. If you're not paying attention, what does that do to the quality of your life? What does that do to the quality of the decisions that you're making and the actions that you're taking? You know, is it helping or hurting? So this is sorry. So that's our only rule. People go like, you know, what's the governing rule of tension management? It's pay attention. Pay attention. Okay. Questions, comments so far? Nope. So then we'd say this. Your success in life is based on your natural or learned ability to monitor and manage tension. And so that's why we say, yeah, this is a sales training program, or this is a management skills program, or this is a leadership program, this is a parenting program, this is a whatever. I don't care what the subject matter is. I am telling you that your success is going to be based more on your natural or learned ability to monitor and manage tension than any other skill you're ever going to learn. And so from that statement, I then go in and I say, so when we talk about influencing skills, or when we talk about personal and professional change management, what we really are talking about is tension management. We just happen to be applying it to some subject matter that for whatever reason, your corporation was willing to pay me to focus on. So the program is not going to change. The only thing that's going to change is how we happen to be focusing it in whatever conversation we happen to be having.
That's like the tweet of the day right there.
Yeah, your success is based on your natural or learned ability to monitor and manage tension. And I want to acknowledge some people are just good at it and they don't know that they're doing it, but based on whatever was modeled for them, or based on just whatever's going on with them and their personality or their genetics or whatever, some people are really good at picking up on other people's levels of tension and managing them without having any actual knowledge around how they're doing it. So that's why when I said tension management is not something that anyone created, tension management is something that was observed. It's already a built-in factor in the way all of us operate. So do you want to just fumble through it, or do you want to go like, no, if there's method to this madness, if there's some science to all this, then let's go ahead and learn how to do this so that I can do it when that serves me and my family, et cetera, well. And so I can also recognize when it's being done to me so that I can, defend myself if necessary, or at least be the one who's in charge of what's going to happen instead of just defaulting into this no, yes, impulse change kind of scenario that we painted last time around.
You know
All
what
right.
I like about this definition here is the natural and learned ability. Like I was just reading about how we're breeding a society that's obsessed with self-improvement as opposed to understanding self-unfoldment.
Oh,
Like
Yeah.
this idea of self-improvement always has people thinking about fixing something about themselves, and so they never really see themselves as complete or whole.
mhm.
But the idea of self-unfoldment is like, you can learn from things. You can learn how to, as it says here, manage things that are natural to you, as opposed to always trying to adopt and what's the saying, keep up with the Joneses and that kind of dynamic. And so it's always like we're out of sorts and out
Yeah.
of touch with ourself.
Yeah,
And this,
yeah.
we outsource now, even critical thinking to algorithms and all these things that are quick. So this here, that's why I said this is a tweet of the day.
Well, you feel free to tweet it.
Yeah.
I'm not
I
on those
agree because-
platforms, but
Go ahead, Anja.
Don't you think sometimes when you read those books or you have those, how to improve this, it's not really you. You're not really getting to your own self. It
Yeah.
never
Right.
feels natural. It never
Right.
feels like something you've changed in your, DNA.
Well,
And
exactly.
I agree completely. All the how-to books are showing you how to change your behavior. And it's not something that's the essential part of who you are. It's just how you happen to be responding to things, or how you happen to be dealing with particular things that arise in your life. So those are all fine improvements. I mean, give me all the insights, tools, and techniques you want. But ultimately, if my real goal is to be the best me I can be, then I need to be working more on me, not on my behavior.
right.
Or like the behavior will kind of take care of itself if I focus on the me part of
Exactly.
what's going on,
And
So-
becomes part of you.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Naturally. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And this has to resonate with everyone who's doing any kind of coaching work. You guys know that the biggest hallmark difference between coaching and therapy is that coaches believe and operate from the belief that the human you are talking to is just fine, just the way they are. So the belief, and this is something I hold very near, is that the person I'm talking to, every human being, lives in a state of complete and ongoing perfection. They're fine just the way they are. Now, that might not be a good match for me, in which case I can make my own choice. But my enjoyment of life can't be controlled by me believing that other people are imperfect, or labeling that it's imperfect. No, they're them. They're fine just the way they are. And if they realize they want to change, or they want to do it, that's them. That's got nothing to do with me. Because if I start to hold the belief, as therapists generally do, that people are flawed, that there are problems, there are issues, and these are what have to be identified and overcome. I don't believe that another person that I'm meeting is inherently flawed. I believe that they have been trained and conditioned to believe and behave the way they believe and behave. And yeah, that might describe them, but I think they're just fine just the way they are. Now, every audience
long
I've
as
ever had
that
finds
serial
great
killers-
difficulty with that phrase. But people
But
live
so
in-
long as they're not sociopaths.
well, yeah. No, we always get that there are organic issues that create exceptions to the rule. So if we're talking about in an otherwise reasonably normally functioning person that has no true organic problem in their brain, then we're going to say, no, they're fine the way they are. They're the result of the way they've been, nature and nurture. This is how they've ended up. And we talk about this a lot more in the accountable self. At a certain point in time, the oracle of the self becomes the accountable self. So no doubt that'll be subjects we'll talk about in greater detail. But one of the things that we talk about is people taking responsibility for who they are, how they are in this very moment. And one of the things that I try to stimulate them to think about is that they are living proof. Each and every one of you are living proof that the decisions that you have made and the actions that you have taken have led you to where you are right now. So if someone wants to end up right where you are right now, if they just duplicated what you did, obviously they can't, because every behavior you manifested was manifested at a particular place in history, particular time in history. That same behavior might have had different outcomes if the circumstances that were involved at the time you made that decision were different. So, but bottom line, we're just saying like, you're the results that you're living proof that the decisions that you have made and the actions that you have taken have led you to where you are. Now, the question becomes, are you happy where you are? If the answer is no, then we only need to focus on the decisions that you're making and the actions that you're taking to change the course of the life that you're on, right? Because if you keep doing the same decisions and the same actions, are you likely to go end up somewhere else or end up just further entrenched where you are? Yeah. So anyway, by the way, a lot of these statements are intentionally designed to be provocative. I love it when I'm doing a program like the Accountable Self, where I can say something that on the surface is as outrageous as I could possibly make it. Because it's in the processing of that people really make the discoveries that I want them to make. And that's that most people think they're just fine just the way they are, right? So, most people think they're just fine just the way they are. And even if they don't believe that, the actions that they're taking or not taking would seem to indicate that they're perfectly content just the way they are, right? Or they would be doing different things. And so, and if they're doing different things, then that's part of their ongoing perfection. They're just continuing to do this. So celebrate people exactly how they are, meet them where they are. This is going to become very important in about 10 minutes into our discussion. So you'll know why we have to just view everyone as being perfect just the way they are.
I love it. Love it. And that's the wholeness that I'm talking about is often missed. My grandfather used to always tell me, and this is someone who grew up in an apartheid South Africa. His statement was that we're all perfect, but life continues to perfect us. And I remember then he was teaching me about the root word for integrity, which means complete or whole.
Yes.
And so in my journals, I remember writing internal integrity leads to external integration.
All right, good.
But you have to have this idea of internal integrity. And the more I keep seeing like the self-help and things that follow my exact steps and you will get to where I am, I was like, this is some nonsense.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and I think it really matters when it comes to this idea that, and again, I didn't want to turn this into a coaching skills program, but it really is about meeting people where they are. You can't just meet them where they are. You have to respect that they are where they are. They're perfectly fine just the way they are. And while there are many things about many people that don't match me, and maybe the mismatch is so severe that I can't spend time around them, it's still not a reflection of them. It's a reflection on me. So, and I can make my choices. That's the whole thing. And so my favorite greeting card, this is many, many years ago, but the favorite greeting card I ever found was this one. I think it was a breakup card, and it basically says, I am I, and you are you. We are alone together. And if the I that is I is not in harmony with the you that is you, then the we that is us will become the them that were. May you someday become as profound as I am. I thought that was great. The we that is us become the them that were. Okay, this is what you really have to think about as you do that. People are fine just the way they are, but we're going to get into some specifics. All right, let's talk our way through ethics. Now, again, if you were a sales audience and I'd gone through the nature of change, I would want to put this forward because a great deal of the sales techniques that are routinely taught violate these rules of ethics. So are they effective? Yes, but something being effective and something being ethical are very, very different questions. So let's look at some of the standards of conduct and specific moral choices an individual employs in relating to others. That's one of the definitions of ethics, the standards of conduct and specific moral choices an individual employs in relating to others. So one of the things that has very commonly been done are hard sell tactics. hard sell tactics are techniques that are designed to intimidate or pressure an individual into taking an action they may not otherwise have taken. And so trial closes, tie down closes, I could rattle off a whole list of them, but these are routinely taught to sales organizations even to this day. So how do you do trial closes, tie down closes, tie people into decisions, add pressure? You can say things that are designed to question their intelligence, belittle them, et cetera, et cetera. So all kinds of things can happen under the category of hard sell tactics. Are they effective? Absolutely. Are they ethical? Now, the
No.
audience generally says no, and then I say, do you not do these things in your relationships with your children, with your spouse, with friends and family members? Do you not employ techniques that are designed to pressure people into doing something they otherwise would not have taken?
Sometimes people need a kick in the butt.
Yeah. And that's when the audience says, yeah, but that's different. I said, is it really? This is where we want to say, we want to look at the ethics of what's going on. And I'm not going to say whether it is or isn't, in my opinion, because it really is a personal choice. These are, again, look at ethics, the definition of ethics, the standards of conduct and specific moral choices an individual employs in relating to others. We each have our own set of ethics, our own ethos. And so we can say, yeah, society has too. Do they really? Or is there just enough of a frequency of a pattern that we seem to think that society has adopted this particular thing? Anyway, I'm just saying it's not limited to selling. It happens all day, every day. And if we think this is inappropriate in a certain setting, but appropriate in another, that's just cause for pause, cause for pause. Oops. Put that one back where it was. I'll figure that out later. The second category of hard sell of sales techniques that are questionable in terms of ethics are mystical manipulation. Yeah, Max Sachs is a sale is a logical conclusion to a well-made presentation. One of the things that I said about sales is that sales is the exchange of money for a good for a service that turned out well. So money is a side effect of a job well done. And the job well done is to be of service, to help people make the right choice from the choices that are available to them. And that's why we say that people who are trained and certified in master stream as a sales technique, these are not typical sales representatives at all. So we'll talk about a whole lot of things that are forbidden. In master stream, hard sell tactics are forbidden. Mystical manipulation is forbidden. So what's mystical manipulation? Mystical manipulation is a subconscious technique that's designed to transfer positive responses to an unrelated product or idea. And the thought is that if I can waken your warm fuzzies while I'm showing you a picture of my product, you're going to connect those warm fuzzies to my product. So let me give you a couple of examples of this. So the first four words on the back of a tube of close-up toothpaste are, anyone know? They are want love, get close up. Want love, get close up. They're implying that if you use close-up toothpaste, you will have love in your life. Now, I will agree that people who brush their teeth are more likely to have love in their life than those who don't. But the thought that close-up toothpaste is the actual causative agent of that happening is mystical manipulation. Another one I like to share is Doublemint gum. You guys remember the commercials for Doublemint gum?
Double your pleasure, double your fun.
Double your pleasure, double your fun. And they would show you twins having a great time on a beach. And these two beautiful gals within a matter of seconds meet two twin hunks, right? And so they're basically implying that by chewing their gum, you're going to get twins. And it's like, I want to call them up and I want to say to them, I've been chewing your gum for a very long time. Where are my twins? You know, how much of this stuff do I have to order in order to get twins? You know, so obviously, my job when I'm up in front of an audience, particularly a sales audience, is that you've got to be entertaining. You have to throw some humor into it or you're going to lose them, particularly when I'm making heavy statements that call into question the way that they've been trained to do that. I got to make it funny for them. But there's a very important point there. If you watch or pay attention to most of the advertisements that you're seeing, you're going to see all sorts of mystical manipulation happening, like car advertisements on television. You know, you see this car going down this road and you see glamorous people driving it. It's a car. Okay. It's not going to bring you glamour. It's a car. So it's again, subconscious technique designed to transfer positive responses to an unrelated idea or product or idea. All right. So lots of mystical. The third one is artificial resource limitation. Artificial resource limitation is the intentional misrepresentation of the availability of the product or idea being offered. The best example that I can give you of this are fake sales. So, and I'll give you the best one ever. I don't know if Vic Tanny is still in business or if they got bought out by, you know, umpteen different fitness centers over all these years. But back in the day, Vic Tanny would be running sales on their memberships. And there was this little tagline that was always part of it. And the tagline was, "But you have to act now because the offer expires when?"
24.
Soon.
Soon. That's the scariest word, because soon could be in the next hour. Soon could be in the next few days. So everyone scrambles in there, they buy their memberships, but what do we really know? Is there a true physical limitation on the number of memberships that they have available for sale? You know, no, they would make room for as many of them as they could get, because they know very few people continue to use their gym memberships after about 90.
And drop out.
Yep.
Yeah,
But they'll
they try to
continue
use
to
this
pay.
a lot on the even on the online digital products.
That's
Like
right.
they use scarcity. There's a limited amount. Like really
Mm.
for a digital product?
Yeah. And, you know, there are certain things that are limited. So, for example, you know, I did a lot of sales training for insurance companies. And I said, you know, those of you that are selling life insurance, you know that the premium that you're going to charge somebody is tied to their age. And as they get older, the premium is going to go up. That's not an artificial resource limitation. That's a real physical kind of limitation. That's the actuaries running all their programming and saying, like, look, if we're going to be able to cover those that we cover and not go bankrupt, this is what we have to charge people at a particular age. So if I'm selling life insurance and I say to them, just be aware that if you wait until your next birthday, your premium is going to go up. Or the premium will go up. So if you want to lock in a lower program, you're going to need to do that before your next birthday. Is that an artificial resource limitation, or is that just a fact of the situation?
Yeah, that's
You
a
know?
fact.
That's a fact of the situation. If this airplane is leaving in 10 minutes and there's one seat left, then there's no artificial resource limitation here. The plane is leaving in 10 minutes and there's one seat left. And so don't think that all limitations are manipulations. Sometimes the best thing that you would want a good sales person to do is just, you know, tell you the truth. I can't begin to tell you how often Linda and I will go into a retail shoe store, and Linda's got small feet. So, you know, they either have it or they don't. So they're not going to come out and say, we've got this one style in your size, buy it now or it might vanish. Okay, no, that's artificial resource limitation. We can order another pair. So that's a different kind of a thing. All right, are you guys with me so far? That these are three big categories.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So now the sales reps would often say to me, well, if I can't hard sell, mystically manipulate, or limit a resource or two, how the heck am I supposed to produce a piece of business? And
Get
we
a better product.
Well, this is what we say to them is that if the truth can't sell, nothing should. Lots of
Right.
things will, but if the truth can't sell, then nothing should. The truth is the complete and accurate representation of a product or idea through fully integrated honesty. Fully integrated honesty is a very specific concept from philosophy. And it's all about how, okay, if you believe that by telling someone something, you might hurt their feelings, and so you choose not to tell them that, there's a question about whether your honesty is fully integrated or whether you are now making a decision on someone else's behalf about whether or not they can handle the truth. And so fully integrated honesty doesn't mean you aren't going to be diplomatic, but it does mean you're going to give a complete and accurate representation of whatever's going on. Thoughts about that?
I love that. That sounds like the truth in you first that you're
Yeah.
embodying, that
Yeah.
it's like people get the overflow of that.
Yep. And, I mean, I get it. A lot of people are going to say they're telling you the truth. In all likelihood, they're telling you a partial truth, because to tell someone the complete truth might just take more time, or involved a lot more, detail that maybe you can go into it, whatever it happens to be. So I get it that this quest for the truth is a much bigger quest than just having enough accuracy, enough truth, enough completeness in whatever's being discussed that we can make the most informed decision that we can. Because again, from attention management perspective, can you imagine that if someone says, I'm not going to take action until I know the truth and the whole truth? Well, that's going to take a while. So,
Yeah.
we have to live in a real world, but nevertheless, that's what truth is if you're looking for a definition. Now, we're going to get into the next section, which I think is really going to lock in these things at the oracle level. But I just want to remind you, these hard sell tactics and mystical manipulation, artificial resource limitation, they don't only happen in sales situations. You bump into these things happening in your daily life, in your interactions with other people. They might be putting pressure on you to do whatever. They might be, hyping it all up in some sort of a way, that you'll feel better about doing it, blah, blah, blah. Or they'll say, look, you don't want to miss out on this. Fear of missing out is a very big problem these days with the younger sorts of generations. So don't think that this is just limited to sales. It's limited to any attempt you make to influence another person. And if you guys haven't recognized this and celebrated this yet, you do know there's more than one you living inside of you, right? So do you guys know that you have really never met another person? You've only met the version of that person is representing to you. So, right? I mean, does anyone ever meet the complete and total person? Be married for 35, 40, 50 years. Do you actually believe that even after all that time together, you still know there still aren't things about that person's, I don't know, background, history, life experiences, thoughts, feelings, etc., that they have not shared, perhaps not intentionally not shared, but just hasn't come up. And so,
Yeah, and to that point, I really like Jung's 4-pane window or somebody. Oh no, Johari window.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Because it's right. We're only getting a glimpse. And I would say to you that that's also happening inside of you. Do you guys really think you know you?
Nope.
No.
No, you know the version of you that you're most comfortable with, maybe, and maybe you know a little bit about the version of you that's, blah, blah, blah. But, have you ever really allowed someone to meet the whole you? And how insane would that be if anyone even could do such a thing? You get the idea? So I'm just saying to you that this idea about fully integrated honesty, there's a lot more to it than just those two words. There, it's applying to a lot of things. And how can you wait? Isn't the line "to thine own self be true"?
True.
Right. Well, the whole quote is "to thine own self be true, and then thou canst not be false to any man."
Mm.
Quotes. You
My
got,
high school counselor wrote that in my yearbook.
is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. You got to be true to yourself before you can begin to interact in a truly honest way with others that are in your life. All right. And so, because this whole idea about my personal truth and the essence of me really is a unique experience to each individual, that seems to open up a room for the possibility that I don't have to necessarily worry about you because I don't know who you are. I don't know the real you. I don't know the real anybody. And so why should I worry about the ethics that I'm applying as I work around why don't I just take care of me? Why don't I just take care of my own family? So again, if we go back to those progressive symptoms of dysfunction, we're down to that whole idea about self-centeredness. And what that leads to. So you get the idea we're in a difficult kind of a situation when it comes to interacting with ourselves and our others at any different level if we don't start looking a bit at ethics. So what I want to do in this next little section is show you how these sorts of things are actually playing themselves out historically in things that you encounter every day. And to do this, we did a deep dive on this with the Circle of Brilliance. It's probably 3 years ago. We were talking about Noam Chomsky's strategies of manipulation in the media. And so as we look at each one of these, we can certainly say, well, that falls into the category of hard sell or mystical manipulation, artificial resource limitation. But there's a science to this. This whole idea about how to most effectively manipulate people is not new. You can go back to advertising practices in the 1920s, 30s, 40s. You will find these things in abundance. And all you have to do is turn on any media outlet today, and you're going to hear these strategies of manipulation being employed across the board. Doesn't matter who's opening their mouth. I promise you, they are resonating with one or a combination of these strategies of manipulation. So what I thought I would do is chat over to all of you these strategies of manipulation so you have it as a document. I will warn you that the document that I'm sending over to you, I think originated in Italy, and so it was translated into English, and there's some issues with some of it. And then the other document I wanted to show you these are the 10 rules of social control. This is also Chomsky, a variation on what the other one has, but the languaging might be a little bit better as you guys are looking at these different sorts of things. Oh no, actually that one's the 10 rules of social control is the one from Italy. So yeah. The primordial element of social control. All right, so I want to work our way through this. The other thing I want to give you guys today is something that I think we'll be talking about next time around. This is all of the biases. When this little chart was put together on cognitive bias, there were some 188 biases that had been identified. And I was able to find a super high resolution graphic. So I've sent that over to you.
Oh, geez.
You can zoom in as closely as you want, and it's still readable, but they're all arranged in a very interesting kind of way. What should we remember? Too much information, not enough meaning. We need to act fast. So some of these are time pressured, some are about overwhelming. So I do believe we could probably overlay this on what we know about brain function. Maybe this overlays on the one brain sort of model, something like that, but I don't really know. I've not looked at it. I just wanted to find the diagram. But there you are. This is the cognitive bias. I think this would be referred to as a codex. Yeah, cognitive bias codex. Most of these biases I've never even heard of before. Most of us who even have had some training in bias might know a dozen, but 188? No. All right, so I wanted you to have that. We won't be getting around to that today. Okay. Questions, comments before we launch into some of these rules of social control or these rules of manipulation?
I just wonder if the cognitive bias, I want to look at it because I did a workshop on bias in the workplace and just see if they could go into affinity charts or something. It's hard to see, but That's a whole
Yeah.
nother time.
Yeah, I think it'd be very interesting to see because, obviously it's been studied deeply. And then the other thing are logical fallacies. I think if you're going to spend any time talking about cognitive bias, we have to understand that a cognitive bias is an outcome, an attitude, a belief, whatever. It's an outcome. What was the process that got us in to that particular bias? And that's, I think, where we go into the logical fallacies. How we actually are sorting through the information we get will ultimately give rise to patterns. And those patterns are what these biases really are. So, yep, a lot to do that. Tom, Anja, Susan, have you guys spent much time studying cognitive biases or logical fallacies?
A little, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this might be a bit of a deep dive, but it might be interesting for you guys to just do a quick look around the wheel and see if the biases that you already know about are listed here. Because I think it's this outer reel that's explaining what's going on. So like we notice flaws in others, then noticing flaws in
Oh, that's better.
ourselves. If I zoom in, it won't let me zoom in.
Yeah.
Cooperate. There it is. But it's saying that these flaws in others that we notice flaws in others more easily than we notice flaws in ourselves. The biases that there would be blind spot, naive cynicism, and naive realism. I know what those words mean, but I don't know what that bias actually includes. So I'd kind of like to find the companion document for this codex that gives the definitions and examples of each of these. Yeah. We tend to find stories and patterns even when looking at sparse data. What is pareidolia?
No idea.
Pareidolia. I
Never
don't
heard
know.
that word.
I'd like to know what the gambler's fallacy really is. That one sounds like it was popular enough to at least give it a clever name. And confabulation, you just got to look up because it's like, I like the word.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
So,
gambler's fallacy, some of those, I remember when this codex came out, and some of them are based on these researchers that all came together and presented some of like their studies. So like the gambler's fallacy was based off of casinos and people that went and actually studied that. So that's where this codex came from. But I don't remember if there were a document that went into each of them. I think there was.
I would
can't
have to
remember.
think so that, for them to have come up with this document, I mean, doesn't it just scream that it needs a companion document that gives people the definition of each one of these? So for them to come up with this label tells me there was a paragraph that they extracted it from. I personally, I'm not a gambler, but I think I've shared with you guys that I love watching roulette. I think roulette is the most entertaining game ever to watch because in no other game do so many people lose so much money so quickly. Craps is not too far behind, and it's all because of this one, the neglect of probability. If you guys have ever noticed on the roulette wheels, the roulette tables, there is a pillar. And at the top of the pillar, there is an LED screen. And it's showing you what the most recent outcomes were. So it'll show you red, it'll show you black, it'll show you the number. And if it goes red, 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 a crowd forms around the table, all betting on what? Black. It's kind of like, do you not understand that every spin is 100% independent of why are we ignoring the laws of probability?
Yeah, that's a general fallacy that in philosophy is simply discussed as not understanding the laws of probability.
Right. And the bias would say that
a gambler will think, okay, this next one's got to be mine because the last 20 weren't.
Yeah, right. I'm due. Or this, or the slot machines. This one's due for a payout. This one's due for a payout. It's like, really? You think? Okay, anyway, cognitive bias, great fun things to look at. So if you guys have some experience with it, do a quick, trip around the wheel just to see which of these you are familiar with and which ones grab your curiosity. And we can.
Pareidolia is when you see things, random pictures and random things, like when you see a rabbit in the clouds.
Oh, that's interesting. Pareidolia is, yeah, that makes sense. Again, finding stories and patterns, even when looking at sparse data.
What
So
year
I
did
think that's interesting. This week going around here that there's a whole set of biases where we project our current mindset and assumptions onto the past and future. All right.
when did this come out?
Oh, I have no idea. Let's
It
see.
first came out in 2017, but they updated it in 2021. I
Yeah.
first seen it on visualcapitalist.com site, and they gave
Yeah.
some examples of some of those biases there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of universities that present it, but they always just present this and not, the definitions of any of these that are out there.
Yeah, but now if we look in this little corner here, the 188 cognitive biases, if they got that from Wikipedia, I promise you, Wikipedia gives you definitions for every one of these. And then I love that the concept and categorization of these things was actually put together by Buster Benson. I think that's a great name, don't you think?
Benson.
I
Buster
love it.
Benson. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, we'll talk about bias later because it does have to do with this whole idea about when you're talking to yourself about yourself, you are still processing life through your biases. And those can sometimes cause big problems. Now, this one I think is really interesting. Again, we did a deep dive onto this. But let's just do a quick little walk through this. So 10 rules of social control or 10 rules of manipulation by Noam Chomsky. I believe this would go back to the 1940s, 50s. When was Chomsky around? 80s? I don't know. It's back there somewhere. Someone can look it up if they feel so
It's been
inclined.
around for at least 60 years.
Yeah. That's my thought too. Anyway, so the strategy of distraction. The primordial element of social control is the strategy of distraction. That is to divert public attention from important issues and changes agreed by the political and economic elites through the technique of flood or flooding continuous distractions and trivial information. The strategy of distraction is also essential to prevent the public interest of the essential knowledge. You see what I mean about translating it from Italian? It's kind of clumsy. In the area of science, economy, psychology, blah, 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 blah. Keep the public's attention diverted from the real social problems, imprisoned by issues with no real importance. Keep the public busy, no time to think, return to the farm as other animals mentioned in the text, silent weapons for quiet wars. Now, let me look at the other version of this I sent you guys. This one came from Belgrade, could be worse. Don't know. Propaganda. Well, at least they're giving some background. Did you see a date as we scrolled through that? Pardon me. No, but good job, Marina. Get that doctorate. Okay. Here we go. Blah, 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 blah. Model on the linguist, MIT linguist, psychological manipulation, the strategy of distraction. The primary element of social control is the strategy of distraction, which is to divert public attention from important issues and changes determined by the political and economic elites. Okay, yeah, that's same thing, but maybe a little bit easier. Keep the public busy. No time to think, back to the farm and other animals. Second thing, so have you guys seen any evidence of that strategy in any recent days, months, years?
Every day.
Every day, all day? Doesn't
But
matter
it
who.
seems like we're distracting ourselves more so than just the
And-
media
Right.
doing it.
And there we are at the ultimate lesson I hope to end up with. This is the oracle of the self. I want to know how much of this is happening inside of your own head. To have you, I don't know, cope more effectively. The second one, create problems, then offer solutions. This method is also called problem reaction solution. It creates a problem, a situation referred to cause some reaction in the audience. So this is the principle of the steps they want to accept. They want you to accept. For example, let it unfold and intensify urban violence or arrange for bloody attacks in order that the public is the applicant's security laws and policies to the detriment of freedom. Okay, yeah, okay.
It's oddly translated.
Yeah, it's very oddly translated, but I know what they're saying. They're saying like, if I can create a problem that really isn't there, and then show you how I'm going to focus on it, and no miracle, I'm going to eliminate it because it wasn't there to begin with. That's going to further manipulate people, create an economic crisis, to accept as a necessary evil retreat of social rights and the dismantling of public services. Create an economic crisis. Oh, to justify, these dismantling of public services and public rights.
You know, it was Henry Ford who said, invention is the mother of necessity.
That's right. Yep. It's true. Okay, number 3, the gradual strategy. Acceptance to an unacceptable degree. Just apply it gradually, dropper for consecutive years. That's how the radically new socioeconomic conditions, neoliberalism, were imposed during the 80s and 90s. The minimal state, privatization, precariousness, flexibility, and do not guarantee a decent outcome. So many changes have been brought about by a revolution if they had been applied once. Okay, if you guys can draw a map of the message inside of that sentence, you just let me know. I'm trying to find a document that is actually Noam Chomsky's work. Well, basically what they're saying is that rather than doing things all at once in a way that's going to draw attention to itself, just keep leaking out in that eyedropper form, one little change, so no one ever really notices that it's really are happening along the way. I'll give you a story of this, and then we're at the top of the hour, so this will be a good place to stop. But I was a big fan of Stargate. So you guys remember Stargate SG-1, and Stargate could travel through this portal to take them anyway, blah, blah, blah. Well, there's an episode, very interesting episode, where there is a group of aliens, people from another planet, who arrive, and they are 100% benevolent. They have all kinds of advanced medical knowledge, all kinds of advanced, you name it, they've got it. And over the course of this episode, the Stargate opens and nothing happens, but a message is tossed through. Oh, no. Not you guys are going to go watch it, but someone comes through the Stargate that has just been shot, like, hundreds of times, but they fall through the Stargate, and in their hand is this message. And the message is a warning not to accept these aliens at their face value. What they had basically done is that this race of people overtook worlds gradually. And they did that by getting people to be healthy to the point that their lifespan was doubled and the quality of their life was even better. But built into this treatment that they were getting was that the birth rate was going to get lower and lower and lower and lower until the original occupants of a planet were extinct, and there they had taken over the whole planet. So they were basically conquerors. They just did it a single little drop at a time. So is that an interesting premise for
yes. Do you remember
Yeah.
the Twilight Zone, How to Serve Man?
How to Serve Man?
Mhm.
Exactly. And we all know what that turned out to be.
Ooh,
Right.
with fava beans on the side.
Fava beans. That's right. Yeah, it's a cookbook.
And a nice Chianti.
Soil Green.
Soylent Green. Exactly
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Exactly right. Yep. Okay, I will try to find a better translation, and if you guys can find yourself hunting for this, maybe I'll just ask ChatGPT to describe these for me and
There
see
you
what it
go.
comes up with. Pardon me. But I think these are very important things to do, because They are forms of hard sell tactics, mystical manipulations, artificial resource limitation, etc. These are how our brains are being hijacked. And this is the science of advertising. Most of what Chomsky, I think, focused on was advertising. Ultimately, I think his focus was on messaging. And those messages were something that advertisers wanted to get really good at crafting, but obviously then anyone who's trying to influence anyone to do anything would do the same thing. So even today, if we look at social influencers, how many of them are employing these kinds of things? Encourage the public to be complacent with mediocrity, strengthen
Keep reading.
you know? There you
That
go.
one's easy to understand.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah. There you go. Oh, Chomsky was born in 1928. In Philadelphia, 1945, started studying. Zelig here, 55, graduated MIT since 1966. So somewhere around that time period, the late 50s, 60s is probably when this this list was developed. If you can find a more precise date, that would be interesting, but there you go. Okay. I gave you guys the documents. Take some time if you can, look it over, and let's see if we can have a conversation about how these manipulations are occurring inside of our own lives, inside of our own heads sometime. Okay, questions?
Very
Come on.
exciting.
All righty. Thanks, everybody. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye for
Excellent.
now. All right, buddy.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Ooh.
Cheers.
Thank you, T.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.